Donald Trump is encouraging individuals who work for him and government officials to break the law. And he wants to do this in order to speed up the process of building the border wall, which he has conceded will not actually stop undocumented immigrants from coming into the country. He has conceded that, but he wants a win for his campaign. So again, he's encouraging people to break the law. So Trump has directed aides to fast track billions of dollars worth of construction contracts, aggressively seize private land, and disregard environmental rules. He has waved off worries about contracting procedures and the use of eminent domain, saying, take the land, according to officials who attended the meetings. He also has told worried subordinates that he will pardon them if any of these issues end up leading to some criminal issues, right? So if there are any potential wrongdoing, should have to break the laws to get the barriers built quickly. So he's like, look, go ahead and break the law, give me this win so I can have a better chance at getting reelected. And if you run into some legal issues, don't worry, I'm gonna go ahead and pardon you.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to some of the absurd and cruel parts of this fence building. But I want to address the taking the land and breaking the law part first. I'm going to quote the Washington Post here. Former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly would often tell administration officials to disregard the president's demands if Kelly did not think they were feasible or legally sound, according to current and former aides. So basically, Chief of Staff said, look, the president's an idiot. If he tells you to break the law, don't do it. You will be in a lot of legal trouble if you do that. So that's what the Chief of Staff used to say, but he's gone. We have another crook in there now. Is he still acting Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney?
Mick Mulvaney is acting Chief of Staff, and he does not challenge Trump or contradict him in any way. He is nothing more than Donald Trump's lapdog, really. Yeah.
And Mulvaney used to talk tough about Trump back in the day. Now he's an ass kisser who's in there. Oh, you want to break the law? That sounds like a great idea. Let's all do it together. And by the way, why do they even have conversations like this? I mean, in previous administrations, if the Washington Post broke a story about how the president ordered his subordinates to break the law, it would have been the biggest story of that presidency. Probably impeachment proceedings would have began, and it would be considered another Watergate. Now it's just Wednesday. I mean, it's the president telling yet another person to break the law. And they think, well, it doesn't matter. The Democrats are never gonna hold us accountable. No prosecutor holds us accountable. No Democrat holds us accountable, even though they control the House. Pelosi said we could break the law, so let's just go break it. What is she gonna do? Impeach us? Loser. That's what they think of her. And I don't think that they're that wrong, because she's not gonna do anything.
She's not, no.
So, okay, now, eminent domain. I want you guys to remember that conservatives pretended to be against this. Remember, conservatives have actually no principles other than, the remaining conservatives, other than we hate the others. Whoever the others happen to be, Latinos, Muslims, gay people, trans people, it doesn't matter, we hate the others. That's their only guiding principle. They say, oh, we're for free trade. Now they hate free trade. They said, oh, well, we're for legal immigration. We're against illegal immigration, but we love legal immigration. No, they say now you shouldn't do any family immigration, and you should kill off most of legal immigration. There's another story about how they're gonna kill off birthright citizenship or a portion of it today. So they don't believe any of that. There's always a lie. And now eminent domain, they're like, the government with their jackbooted thugs coming in and taking private property. No way. Now they're like, oh, eminent domain. You got to take people's private property. When the jackbooted thugs come, they're awesome. You have no principles, none. Give it up. Just say, okay, we're the party of hate and be done with it. Now, there's one other time that Donald Trump tried to do eminent domain.
And understand, eminent domain, like it means taking private property.
It's the government taking private property and saying, you don't have a choice. And we're gonna give you fair market value, whatever we determine that is, and we're done with you. And in this case, they talk about, oh yeah, don't ask them. No, they're done. You give them whatever money we wanna give them and take them off their land. By the way, almost all those landowners are Republicans. What now? We did a story about a year ago or so where they were all crying. They're like, I didn't think he was gonna take my land. Whose land did you think he was gonna take, you goddamn schmucks? Your land's on the border. And you're like, yeah, build a wall, build a wall. So we need your land to build a wall. I didn't know he was gonna do it to me. I just thought he would hate others. Okay, anyway, back when Trump had a casino, he wanted to build a parking lot to hold limousines, literally, okay? So he thought he was gonna run over Vera Koking, who was a little old lady who had been living there since 1961. And she said, no, this is my dream house. I raised my kids here. Earlier, the founder of Penthouse had tried to build a casino there, tried to intimidate her. First, tried to give her $1 million. She's like, nope. He's like, $1 million for your rinky-dink house. So no, I like this house, I don't want to move.
She and her husband bought that house together. They raised their kids there together. At this time, she's a widow. It means something to her.
Yeah, so Bob Guccione then tried to intimidate her. He built a giant building next to her. He even bought the airspace above her house and built this giant structure above her house to try to intimidate her. She's like, I ain't going nowhere. So he then goes bankrupt. Trump comes in and Trump goes, no, I need the limousine space. Get rid of her, okay? And he tries to get the government to do eminent domain and take her property whether she likes it or doesn't like it. So she goes, no. First he offered her, by the way, in the process of this, they then offered her $250,000. She's like, I didn't take $1 million, I ain't gonna take $250,000. I don't know if you're hard of hearing. The answer is no, you will not take my private property. They go to court in 1994, takes a bunch of years, they come out, she wins, she kicks his ass. Then you know what happened? This is my favorite part of the story. So they build the Trump Plaza, it's there. Oh yeah, Trump Plaza, so what up, park the limo somewhere else. She saw Trump Plaza go bankrupt and then close down.
Let's make her Speaker of the House.
I know, man, I know, she's in her 90s now, but God.
She'd be more effective. Let's make her Speaker of the House.
Oh, she is an American hero, man, Vera Koking. She stood up to Donald Trump and she was in the House when they shut down his stupid ass casino.
Oh God.
God, I love her. God, I love her.
I do too. It's incredible. So I do want to get to other components of what Trump is telling people to do in terms of getting this wall built. First, let me just note, he's in a panic because the wall hasn't been built and he realizes that he hasn't actually followed through on any of his promises to his base. There's a lot of tough talk going on, but he hasn't actually done what his base wants him to do. And so for 2.5 years, he had no problem passing tax cuts for the rich. He had no problem doing things to enrich himself, but he abandoned his base and now he's in a panic. And so that's why he's telling officials to break the law to get the wall built. But one of the things that he's also focusing on is the aesthetic appeal of the wall. Yep. And so he is demanding that the wall is painted or the fence is painted black. And the reason why he wants it painted black is because he likes the way it looks, but also it absorbs heat. Black absorbs heat, we all know that. And so it would be more difficult and painful for people to climb the fence. And then he also wants the top of the fence to be pointy and sharp. So it would cause as much damage as possible if someone does somehow manage to get to the top and climb that fence.
So there's 3 different ways that he wants to hurt immigrants trying to climb the fence. One is it's too hot to hold. 2 is the spikes at the end of each of the fences, so hopefully they can get impaled, I guess, that's his hope. And he wants it tall enough, and it's gonna be 18 to 30 feet in the different parts, so that if they fall to their death or serious bodily injury. So this is our president, guys. And the party of hate loves it. They're like, oh my God, these poor people who are running for their lives, desperate to get into this country for hope and opportunity like our ancestors. Oh man, it'd be great if they got impaled or fell to their death. That's the Republican Party, filled with monsters. So, and by the way, it costs so much more money.
It does, yes.
He's gonna waste a ton of money on that. Yeah. Before we get back to that, one more thing about Vera Koking. She eventually did sell the house when she moved. There was a mystery buyer, but it's a longer story and I wanna save it for the post game, but don't miss it. tyt.com/join to become a member. You get the last half hour of the Young Turks where we give you those extra stories. And Koking also said Trump at the time, back in '94, she called him a maggot, a cockroach, and a crumb.
God,
I love her. And when I saw who bought our house, I was like, no. Really? So, okay, we'll save that for the post game. Last half hour of the Young Turks, tyt.com/join. But back to how much it costs.
Exactly, so it's gonna cost quite a bit more to paint the fence black. And Trump has insisted that the barriers be painted black. According to internal analysis, painting or coating 175 miles of barriers will add between $70 million and $133 million in cost. Trimming the amount of fencing the Army Corps will be able to install by 4 to 7 miles. So the wall will actually end up being shorter, and it'll end up costing a lot more money because Trump insists on painting it black.
Yeah, and by the way, sharpening the tips, because they're not black already. So at one point, the military actually sent troops down there to paint a part of the fence that already exists, because Trump demanded that it be black, and that cost $1 million. And that was a tiny part of the fence. And then they don't have tips, they're not spears, nor do they have heads on those spears yet. So you have to pay extra to actually sharpen the ends of all the fences. So that costs another huge amount of money. This is all taxpayer money. And so part of it is, I get it, he wants the fence to be harder to cross, right? And I'm sure conservatives will love that. Part of it is he's a child. And so they try to talk him out of it because of how much more it'll cost taxpayers. He's like, no, I wanted to be black, I wanted to be black. This is similar to what he did with Air Force One. They're like, okay, we're designing Air Force One. Someone made the mistake of telling him that. He's like, I want to be involved. They're like, why? Are you an aeronautical engineer and we don't know that? He's like, I own Trump airplanes. They're like, didn't that go bankrupt? Yeah, it did, but still. And so, you know what they had the child do? They had him pick the colors. And he said, oh, I made it red, white, and blue. Before it was just blue and white. I added the red. It's much better now. We have a very cruel child as our president. That's why I call him Joffrey Baratheon. I mean, it's nearly a perfect analogy. God, that is so sickening that is our so-called leader. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.